The Vatican has published the first major document of Pope Leo's pontificate. His first apostolic exhortation is called Dilexi Te, meaning I have loved you. The document signed by the Holy Father on the feast of St. Francis of Assisi focuses on the Church's call to live out the gospel by caring for the poor, who he calls the very flesh of Christ. The Pope writes that faith cannot be separated from love for the poor, and that if the Church really wants to belong to Christ, it must give them a privileged place. Joining us now is Frank Rocca, Senior Vatican Analyst for EWTN News. Frank, it's good to see you. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks, Sue. Glad to be here. Thank you very much.
So this is Pope Leo's first apostolic exhortation, and it focuses on love for the poor. Can you tell us more about it?
Yes, well, in this document, Pope Leo writes that love for the poor is not an optional or a sideshow to Catholic worship or Catholic life, but essential to it, central to it. He says that, the poor are the flesh of Christ. And so he refers to Scripture and the tradition of the Church, and he says that there are new types of poverty now, including victims of ecological problems, or immigrants are also part of the poor, also the aged and the ailing. But he says also that the poor are not just the recipients of our charity, but they're actually evangelists who convert us, or at least people who aren't poor, convert them with the example of their weakness and their dependence on God. They remind you that how precarious life is and how dependent we are on God.
Now, does Dilexi Te carry forward Pope Francis's legacy of closeness to the poor and mercy at the heart of the gospel, or do you think Pope Leo may be bringing his own emphasis or tone?
Well, he says that this was something he inherited from Pope Francis. Pope Francis had been working on it even in the last months of his life. So it's definitely, largely Pope Francis's document. It quotes extensively his first apostolic exhortation from 2013, Evangelii Gaudium. So that's clear. If you're looking for, there's no discontinuity in ideas, certainly. Maybe in style, we can attribute it's more structured, it's more historical, it's got a lot of references to the fathers and the doctors of the Church, to Scripture. So maybe that's the contribution of Pope Leo, who seems to be more methodical and organized in a traditional way than Pope Francis. Also, it's less political. It does talk about the fact that we can't expect government to do everything and we can't rely on the free market to do everything, but it doesn't include the critique of global capitalism that Pope Francis had and eventually got into crazy such attention, drew even, attention from President Obama, who quoted it. There isn't anything like that here.
Do you think maybe his American roots had anything to do with that?
Maybe. It might be that he is not so reflexively skeptical or suspicious of all capitalism. That could be. I hadn't thought about that. That's quite possible. And I think it's also just his temperament. He seems to have a more, as I say, methodical, organized approach than Pope Francis, who was more not necessarily impulsive, but more spontaneous and more disruptive in his style and in his leadership.
Now, for viewers who might not be familiar with church documents, could you explain what an apostolic exhortation is?
Well, this is, let's say, on the third level in the hierarchy of papal teaching documents, the highest being a dogmatic constitution, which is very rare, which is a definition of an infallible statement of dogma, like the Assumption of Mary or the Immaculate Conception. Those are the two examples that are in recent history, very rare. And then there's encyclicals, which we're all familiar with, I think, at some point, and those are defining or clarifying doctrine, and those are very important. An apostolic exhortation is typically more practical. It's an exhortation, it's an encouragement to apply doctrine in a pastoral way. And this one is addressed to all Christians. It's not addressed to the whole world. It's just to Christians because it's based very much on the Gospels. And it's sort of encouraging us to take this doctrine of the love for the poor and apply it, and how to do that.
Frank Rocca, thank you so much for your insights.
Thank you.